Alright, so let's keep this whole door repair stuff rolling. Um, so, as with it is common with a lot of Cherokees and Grand Cherokees, it's very common for the driver door to start losing the hinges and stuff like that. It'll start bend, you'll hear creaks, you might have fender contact with the door and stuff like that when you open it. And if you look on mine, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a gap. This actually sticks up a good 1/4 inch. It's not flush anymore, even though it's flush kind of down here. And water gets in through here, so it gives it a pretty good leak. Even with a brand new door seal, there's still a gap there. And that's caused by all this fun over here. So this right here is your door hinge. And if you'll notice, up here it's separating because it was never welded on the back here. It was only welded on the sides and stuff like that. This stuff right here is just like a putty or whatever. You can peel that off. If you notice, mine is missing the check, the door check, whatever the hell you want to call this thing, where it stops the door from opening all the way. Because if it opens too far and that metal contacts, it starts pulling the hinge out. And that's what happens when if you lean on the door real bad, or when it flies open from the wind or a hill or something like that, it's slowly prying the hinge away from the rest of the body. So I'm going to see if I can bend it back, beat it back, and weld it back so that we can fix the misalignment. And along with that, it seems like the bottom hinge, the hinge pin in there is starting to wear out, because you can pick up the door and it moves a good, 1/2 inch or so. So you can pick it up. It moves a little bit. The hinge pins are something completely different. They're on the older models, 84 to 96, is actually a pin, not like a bolt or anything like that. So for now, I'm just going to focus on the hinge and see if I can't bend it back or beat it back. So what we want to do is try and get that gap a little closer. We don't want such a big gap. So with body work, right now I'm going to say I am not at all a body work person. There's a lot of skill in doing body work. I only took one class, and it was just a lot of sanding. But there is one principle behind body work. You're basically trying to undo a collision. So the way that this damage is happening, when you open the door all the way, that little thing contacts there, and you can see it bend, and it just starts bending the thing out. So what you're trying to do is unbend it. And what I came up with is something kind of simple. You can actually use the door to your advantage to fix what you broke. So we're going to take a big long punch like this and put it in this hole, right like here, as far as you can. And what you're going to do is just close it and just try and bend it back. Just kind of work it and see if you can't bend it back. And what that's doing is forcing the mount in the other direction. It's bending the whole thing. And if you want, try the bottom one too, see if that'll even it out at all, if it's a little better in that one. And just keep bending it until it's where you need it. And now your gap's a little smaller. See? Wasn't that easy? Alright, so. And then the other test is to make sure your door shuts properly. You're going to make sure that, if it's catching or whatnot, like mine is right now, that you need to figure out where and why. So right now mine's hitting at the bottom, so it must have bent down a little bit, so it needs to get bent up. So I'll have to figure out how to bend it around and get it just right. Alright, so part of this door fix, my old door latch thingy dingy was, broken, fell apart. When I bought the truck, you could actually just pull most of it out of the door. So I didn't really worry about it, but that might have been something that was contributing to my flexi door and misalignment and bullshit and whatnot. So from what I've heard, the 97 and newer XJs, they have a newer design door check, and it's got this little rubber bumper on it. It still opens the same amount, but it softens the blow every time you open the door, and it makes it a lot smoother. So this will help you from, opening your door so far that your thing starts to flex, because that's what messes up your your door hinges. So if you don't have a working one of these, you're going to have this problem at one point. So we're going to install it. It's pretty easy. You just unbolt these 2 bolts, then take off your door skin, go in through the back, and take it out, put the new one in, pop it in. Okay, so right now I have a little stand set up to hold the door. I'm going to have to go a lot farther than I was hoping to today. This won't mount properly because of how messed up this metal is back here, and I can't get any tools in there to fix it. It's just fucked. So I might have to cut it out and re-weld a thing in there, make a little bracket or something. But I'm going to see if I can take the whole door off, because I also need to do the pins over here. So that'll be another fun step. So we have this thing here, and there was also a shim on here as well. I don't remember how that was sitting, I guess like that. So there's a shim, and there's also a plate in here that moves around a little bit. So there's lots of adjustment. But I'm going to see if I can't just take the whole door off and replace these pins, which is going to be a royal bitch. But we'll see if it can be done, and especially with one person. So I'm going to unsolder the speaker. I don't have any other electrical stuff, so this thing should just come out once I take those top bolts out. Oh look, no more door. Okay, so having this jack was extremely helpful because it kept the door from wobbling and all that. You have to slide the door out and then it's free to go. Save this bolt for last because it's the easiest to get to. And yeah, everything else you just kind of wiggle diggle out. So now we can see the roll pin in there much better. Figure out how hard it is gonna be to get the fucker out. Oh look, one bracket off. Only one? Okay, so I can tell you right now that if your setup is anything like mine, you're never gonna get those roll pins out. Not while it's on the vehicle, at least. You're gonna probably end up ripping the fucking thing, the whole hinge assembly off, beating that thing before you actually get any movement out of it. So at first I tried taking a Dremel with a little cutoff wheel like this that was just barely big enough to fit in the gap, and I was doing okay, but I couldn't get all the way through. So then I whipped out the Sawzall, our friend. That got it off. Now the center, yeah, look at that, should come right out. Where'd it go? Aha! Are you hot? No. Okay, so as you can see, there's a split down the middle, so it is a split pin, and she's all loosey-goosey in there, and that's what causes your door to be all wobbly. So as for these sides, I'll see if I can either put that in the press or the drill press or something, maybe a furnace. Let's go see if the new pins fit. Okay, so I bought these things right here. Jeep Cherokee 84 to 90 front or rear door hinge pin. But basically they're a 1/4 inch by like 2 3/8 roll pin or something like that. I forget. But it's just a roll pin, nothing too fancy about it. See if I can't sawzall the other one off and compare. So once you get it out of there, then's the fun part of pushing the old pins out. Now I already pushed them out, my camera died so I couldn't show you. But this is what was left of them. So you can see that when I tried to drill out a little bit first, but it's hard. I don't know if it's tempered or what it is, but it's a pain in the ass to try and drill. So yeah, good luck with that. I haven't tried doing it on the drill press overhill, but no, not the way to do it. Now, you can't use a 1/4 inch drill punch because the holes are 1/4 inch. I mean, you might be able to, but you'd end up probably getting the punch stuck in there too. You don't want to do that. So what I used was a 3/16. It seemed to do the job. And since it was smaller, for the most part, it would kind of sit in the middle of the old thing. They varied in difficulty from being extremely hard to one of them just kind of sort of gently popped out with a couple taps. But the best way is to find something metal and hard, kind of over here, that you can wedge it onto and still have access, and then take your punch and your hammer and put a little lube on there and beat the shit out of it. Hope she comes out. Alright, so now that we're outside, we can get a much better look at the hinge. Now mine isn't ripped off, it's actually still in pretty decent condition. It was only separating from the top just a little bit, so nothing major. What I'm going to do is see if I can clean this up a little bit. I'm going to weld back here. I'll see if I can't beat it back in just a little bit, but it doesn't really seem like it wants to budge anywhere. Alright, so I tried using a Dremel with a little wire wheel on it. It wasn't quite big enough to get in the hole and do what I needed it to do. But we're going to try and weld now. So I got my little Longevity 120 welder out, and I'm going to see if I can't run a bead. Also, before I start, I forgot to mention, if you got batteries, you should remove the negative cable, especially on crazy computer-controlled vehicles and whatnot, because welding, you don't want to fuck up your computers. It'd be bad, okay? This fucking piece of shit won't keep a constant wire speed. It keeps going so I can't get a good fucking bead. But whatever, booger welds for days. What are you gonna do about it? Piece of shit. Well, the brackets are fucking welded on. So, if we move over to the door, you can see the damage. That my finger dinger got ripped out. The door check valve, so I'm gonna see if I can't beat this. And I'll probably have to cut a piece of metal and make a new bracket for this thing so the check will actually hold. Alright, it's time to make that bracket. Used a cardboard cutout, traced it onto some metal, used a cut-off wheel, so now it's drill press time. Yay! Alright, so here's the plate, all set up and ready to go. Seems to fit in fine. So I'm going to clean up the edges a little bit. I'm going to bolt it down with the thing in place, and then either weld it fully or run tacks or whatever I feel like doing. Alright, so we got our plate welded in. Oh man, this machine just giving me nothing but shit. The welds at the bottom left were going really well. I was pretty happy with the way that it was running, but I just couldn't keep it. It kept just stuttering and didn't have enough heat. It just, ugh. I'd love to make beautiful welds, I really would, but I need a machine that cooperates first. Oh well. Ain't gonna be looking at it that often, so now that that's welded and that's welded, I think we can start putting shit back together again. Ooh. Oh fuck, now the fun part begins. So, we have to hammer that roll pin all the way in. So, for the top one, you're gonna have to go from the bottom up because there's not enough room in the snorkel here. I mean, if you got your fender off, maybe, but I'm gonna go up from the bottom. Make sure that they're sitting the right way. You don't want them on backwards because you will fucking kill yourself if you put them on backwards and have to take them off. So with this off the vehicle, beat the one side in until it's just flush, and then what I did was I took this this guy right here that's small enough to fit inside. This is a 1/8 push pin, and centered it like that, and then started hammering it so it's going up center. Now that it's centered, I can just beat the crap out of it with a hammer and hope she goes. You get the idea. Check that out. One down, baby. One down. Don't forget the butt plug. Okay, so this bottom hinge is no bueno. It moves way too much. And it's just going to make the door, dick around again, so. Plan B, we're going to have to take this pin out and drill it to the next size bigger, which is a 5/16. Now the trick here is going to be making sure that the hinge is tight and the part on the body is loose. So, yeah, we'll have to be very careful about our tolerances here. Step one of fixing this thing. Fucking around with this shitty drill press for a good 20-30 minutes. Lots of cursing and screaming involved. But the goal was to drill both of them at the same time. I had to do the first one, then readjust a lot of bullshit, and then finally get the second one. So now they should be aligned to whatever axis it was drilled on. Hopefully it was parallel. And then I took a file with a nice end on it and put it in a drill and just spun it for a little bit, just so that there was a little bit of clearance to help ease it in, but I didn't go all the way down. Now, I did that same technique on this part, on the body, but I ran it for a lot longer, so that way the clearance in here is more than in here, so that would make this part spin. So what I'm working on now is hammering it down a little bit at a time and moving it, and as you can see, it's moving. There's no wiggle room, and I'm just going like this, and I can see some of the metal chips coming out, so I'm just doing that, and then beating it down a little bit more and turning it and make sure that it doesn't, stick. Alright, check that puppy out. How's that for fucking tight? No wibbly wobblies there. That's for fucking sure. The door, having that much leverage, it'll still be easy enough to open the door, but that should be good for quite a while. Now we can bolt the door back on. Huh. Believe it or not, you can put a door on with a one-man army. Okay, so we had our little jack set up here. I had the door rest on that while I wiggled my way in there. I just started the bolt, put the bracket in the back. Don't forget about the bracket and your shim as well. Okay, so I just pushed that center pin in there for now, just to pull the thing back out. And they are loosely tight, if that makes any sense. So now the door is free to move up and down and rotate a little bit. So it's got some movement room to pull all around. So now you're wondering, oh well, how do you align it? You just close it, right? But then how do you get to the bolts? Well, that's where these holes come in. They aren't just there for show, no sir. Now these the bolts that I have are T40 Torx, so I'm gonna need a long shank. T40 Torx, I think that's the correct term. I need the little thingy to be very long. But in order to tighten them, I am gonna have to take the fender off. Which means taking off more Torx bolts and blah blah blah. Okay, so we've got quite a few T27 Torxes. One here, one here. You're gonna have at least two down here. This one's stuck. That was interesting to get out. And then when you open the hood, you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're gonna have to take these ones off, which would be behind your headlight housing thing. So I'm glad I'm doing this while the engine's out. But yeah, you'll have to take these three out, and then the whole fender should be free. But you might not have to take those out, because right now, if you notice, I got this bent back enough that I can look at what I need to get to. So here's where your second Torx bolt thing will come in handy. This long one is going to be used to tighten up the outside ones. Oh man, do you like playing games? Because this is a fucking game. Alright, I think I figured out how to properly go about doing all this. So, my issue was, no matter what I did, the door was always slanted. You know, the top corner over here was never aligned properly, and the gaps just weren't right, and it was bad. Now this is about the closest that I can get to realigning it. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for me. Because when you pick up on it a little bit, it moves just a little. So, how do you do it? Simple. Taking the entire fender off completely is going to help you a whole lot, because you really need to just be able to properly get in here and dick around with it. You can see the old lines a little bit where the door was sitting, and that gave me a bit of an idea of how it was all sitting in there. But this is what I ended up doing. First thing I did, came over here. You're going to loosen this guy up. This is the little door grabber thingy. I just took an adjustable wrench because I don't feel like looking up what size it is. And you're going to loosen it up a couple turns, and then you'll be able to move it around. Moved it up as far as it could go, which isn't a whole lot, and then tighten it back down. You don't want to go in or out anymore, but you just want to go up and then tighten it down. Then what you're going to do is take your door and gently pick the door up since it's loose, so you're going to need both hands, and close it. So now the door should be like almost touching the roof up here. It should be like raised real high. So it should be overly, exaggerated or whatnot. After digging around with the hinges, I took both of the shims and put them on the bottom since I was having the issue with the door not lining up. So I figure putting them both at the bottom kicks the bottom out and brings the top in. So it's bending it more where it needs to be. If you need more shims or something, you can always go to a junkyard and find them or make them. They're not that difficult. So there's 0 shims in the top and 2 shims in the bottom now. So now that we got the shims in there, what I did was I pushed on this and I picked up on the mirror a little bit so that the door was up and in as far as I could go. And while holding pressure with one hand, I tightened up this bolt. And then I came down here and put down pressure and tightened down this bolt. And you can tighten this one and this one. Almost done. So now that those two are tight, and your door is where you want it to be, it's nice and flat, and you feel like you got a decent line. Now you're going to open the door, you're going to loosen this back up, and instead of putting it back in the center where it was before, you're going to slowly close the door, and look at where this lines up. So what you're trying to do is get this to hit right in the center. It's a little hard to tell because it's dark, but if I push this thing down, you can see that she just right in the middle. That's what you want. You don't want the thing to be too high or too low. That'll make the actual closing the door gentle, so you don't have to slam the fucker. So just boom. And she shuts like a charm. So that is how you align a fucking door on a Jeep Cherokee. And then you can come in here and tighten your center bolts. Oh, but man, look at that, huh? Oh my God, look at that. Look at that. Nice. Real nice. Alright, well, there you have it. That's how you realign your door and fix your hinges and install a check and all that good stuff. I'm noticing with the rubber one, you can push it out pretty far, but when it actually comes into its resting spot, it's not super open. Because you can push it pretty far, but it wants to rest somewhere around there. So, what are you going to do? I'm happy with it, so it holds up, it does the job. Most importantly, it closes. Cool. Alright, well, there you go. Hope you learned something. I sure did.